As we head towards June, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how many quality pitching options are available on the waiver wire, including some young pitchers with upside. So I'm going to start there first. And let's go with an obvious pickup, Ben Brown of the Chicago Cubs. Now, I've talked about Brown before he was even brought up to the major league level and talked about him as a strong add weeks ago. And now it seems very obvious because he had his best start of the season, just pitched 7 scoreless against Milwaukee and then included 10 strikeouts. That lowered his ERA on the season to 2.72, and the K numbers have been solid throughout. Now, he has never been a must-add because we really didn't know if he was going to stick in the rotation. He's been up at the pro level for this whole season pretty much, but they just keep bouncing it back and forth between relief and spot starter. I mean, it wasn't a sure thing that he was going to be in the rotation. And then with some guys coming back like Justin Steele and Jameson Taillon, it looked like he might not even be able to start for long. But they did the smart thing, kept their talented arm in the rotation, and now he's paying off. This has always been a pitcher with tremendous arm talent, but he did struggle when he first was brought up to the AAA level last season. 5.33 ERA and a walk rate of 15.8%. This year, it's down to a much more respectable 9.2%. What has made Brown so good and so nearly unhittable as of late is that he has possibly the best curveball in the game. Some sites qualify it as a slider based on how it moves, but it's really a curve, and according to Enosaris' Stuff Plus model, it's the best out there. Besides all the bouncing back and forth between the bullpen and the rotation, look, you also have to take this one outing that he had. This always happens, or it seems like pitchers have this one game that kind of, throws their ERA off completely. Brown is a guy who, despite this one really bad relief appearance early in the season, has had good numbers. If you take that one outing out, 44.2 innings pitched, 54 strikeouts, 1.61 ERA, and a 0.94 whip. According to Brendan Tuma, just did a really good write-up on him, he is now 18th in Sierra. He is 5th in FIP, which is fielding independent pitching, and he's 20th in K-BB percentage. That's all legit. Ben Brown has obviously shown that he's ready for the majors, ready to be a starter. And if he keeps going longer in games and the Cubs actually pick up the pace on offense, he could get a ton of wins. Right now, he's only owned in a quarter of Yahoo leagues. That means in most of your typical leagues, you probably could still get him now. It might be too late if you don't act now, though, based on his last outing. If he has another strong start, that number's going to jump up. Now, let's go to the Marlins, who, despite losing Yuri Perez for the season and not having Edward Cabrera due to injuries and having some big disappointments in that rotation, they still are finding a way to generate talent at the starting pitching level. Let's go with a still young, though he's not a rookie anymore, Ryan Weathers, who, again, is available in 3/4 of fantasy leagues, and I'm not really sure why at this point. He now has 11 starts under his belt this season. He's posted a 3.16 ERA and a 1.09 whip. And that's even a little bit misleading too because he has gotten better and better as the season goes on. In 5 May starts, 1.91 ERA, 0.73 whip. He's also managed to keep his previously high walk rates down. That's always the key with these young pitchers, isn't it? Just find the strike zone more often. Don't give out free passes, and the rest will come. Look, Weathers has a really good fastball. In fact, according to Run Value by StatCast, one of the best fastballs out there. Now, I actually do know why he's not rostered in more leagues. There are some limitations here. The first thing being is that he's on the Marlins, right? The players on the lesser teams are just not going to get as much attention. And so that does limit to some extent his ability to get wins, but wins are such a fluky stat anyways. If you're in a quality starts league, I mean, he's somebody who, again, is going deeper and deeper into games, and so that's really not as much of a concern. The strikeout rate is really the only thing here. It's only about 20%, so not putting up big strikeout numbers. But again, if he's pitching this well and he's putting up good inning totals, the strikeout totals will be just fine. Now, another Marlin left-hander who is getting more attention. He's available in just over half of Yahoo leagues, but still out there in plenty, Braxton Garrett. Now, Garrett, of course, tossed that complete game shutout against Arizona. Very impressive. But what would he do as a follow-up? Solid again. Only gave up 1 run on 6 hits. against the Padres. You want to talk about low walk rates? Right now he's at 3%. He's only walked one batter over the last 3 starts, which is a total of over 18 innings. Now, we don't quite have the southpaw version of George Kirby here yet. Not at that level. And again, the strikeout rate is not amazing, although solid, better than those first 2 guys, giving you more than a K per inning. Like, there's still a ton of talent in this arm. So I think Braxton Garrett, once he gets a chance to get even more comfortable this season, remember, he's not pitched very much yet due to injury. He was basically a workhorse for the Marlins last year. Maybe he can be that for them this year, but this looks like a very solid add if he's still out there. Now, the Mets also have a pair of starters that I'm frankly surprised aren't owned in more leagues. Let's start with, I guess, a post-hype waiver wire pickup. It's Christian Scott. Remember, told you to add him before he got called up. He did. Was really good. And then, I guess, just one bad start against the Marlins, ironically, was enough to sour people on him. He's now available in 2/3 of fantasy leagues. I don't really understand why, because he's thrown 3 quality starts out of 4 attempts. Really just one down game, but otherwise he's been really solid. And even with that one bad game, still got an ERA under 4, a whip of 1.10, and he's giving you a K per inning. And this is one of the better pitchers in the Mets system. Looks like he's going to stick even with some of those guys coming back from injury. Don't think we're going to see Kodai Senga real soon. But even so, Christian Scott looks like he's going to be established there. I don't see why he can't help you in fantasy and why more people aren't on him. So again, I'm going to take advantage before he does another good start and people do start to remember. Then there's Tyler McGill, who just finally came off the IL himself and has been pretty much just dominant ever since. He's only got 3 starts on the season. 1 came before he was injured. So in the 2 starts since then, against Cleveland, pretty good. 5 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits. And then he threw 7 scoreless against the Dodgers, which is pretty impressive. So far, he's got 16 strikeouts, only 3 walks across those 3 starts. That's what I'm always looking for, is that command. Can he get strikeouts while also not dishing out those free passes? He's done it. Now, McGill, not a high ceiling arm, not somebody who ranks up there with all these other young pitchers I've talked about in terms of arm talent or ceiling, but he's getting the job done. He had an excellent spring. He's going to be in this rotation just like Christian Scott. And I know it's easy to be down on the Mets, right? And just not get too excited about these guys, but look at the numbers he's putting up. Look at how he's performed. McGill is somebody that I almost guarantee is available in your league, unless you're playing in an end-on only or really deep league. And I think it's finally time to talk about Ben Lively. There were a couple of pitchers of this Guardians rotation I was very interested in before the season. Lively wasn't one of them, just to be honest, but he's gotten a shot here. Gavin Williams, of course, still on the IL all season. Tristan McKenzie doesn't always stay healthy, and so Lively had a shot. If you didn't know about Ben Lively, can't blame you. This is somebody who has bounced around now for a couple of teams. One of these KBO exports or imports. Spent a couple seasons there. Honestly, even in the Korean League, he wasn't that great. He had an ERA over 4, strikeout rate decent, but it's not like he was dominant. Not like he went and found a new pitch or anything to make you really excited about him. But he's been really good since he came back. Just kind of one of those things. I guess he's rediscovered himself. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Who knows? All he's done this year is posted 2.80 ERA, 1.18 whip, and continuing to deliver consistency. One thing I did notice digging in is that compared to last year, he has bumped up his sinker usage to 29%, which is now even with his fastball usage. His fastball is okay, nothing great. His sinker is solid, but again, it's not overwhelming. But I do notice that he's trying to keep hitters off balance more, trying to do soft contact. I will say I'm a little nervous about this lasting long term, which is why I had not bought into Lively until now. I think he's managing to get by. He is overachieving a bit on his expected stats. So I'm going to say right now I'll treat him as a short-term option, a streamer. He does get Washington next. That's the start that I think you can go roll with him. I don't know that he's going to have an amazing season, but I will say right now he's a solid pickup as a streamer. All right, on to the hitters, and let's start with probably one of the hottest pickups of the week, guy who's on a hot streak for sure. That's Matt Vierling of the Tigers. They just had a doubleheader against the Pirates and their vaunted duo of rookie pitchers, Paul Skeens and Jared Jones, and all Vierling did was homer in each of those games. That brings his season total as of this point to 289 batting average, 7 home runs, 28 RBIs, and a couple steals. Fierling has always been kind of a tease in fantasy because he's got legit power and he's actually really fast, good sprint speed too, but just never really kept it together consistently. Even playing time hasn't been consistent. He had a chance in Philly to hold down a job there. Didn't happen. Detroit, the opportunities here. He's been playing. He's been good at times, but again, we just never really see this full-fledged breakout, right? The speed numbers aren't quite in line with his ability. Same thing with the power. Well, I'll just say this. Right now, he's hot. Go out and grab him. Take advantage while he's hot. He's always been a streaky player. So if he's in a hot streak, stream him right now. The plate discipline isn't that great. I expect the batting average to dip eventually. But if you need someone who can give you some power and potentially speed, look, you can slot him at third base or outfield. So again, I don't love this as a long-term ad, but this is seemingly the hitter of the week to add. Now let's get to some blasts from the past. Let's start with a name that I'm even surprising myself what I'm talking about, but let's talk Miguel Andujar, who is now resurfaced in Oakland. If you're too young to know who Miguel Andujar is, or maybe just haven't been playing fantasy that long, here's a quick TLDR. Andujar was, at one time, a New York Yankee and had an amazing rookie season. In fact, would have been Rookie of the Year if not for a guy named Shohei Ohtani, who also made his debut in 2018. That year, all Andujar did was hit 297, 27 home runs, 47 doubles, and 92 RBIs. Looked like a future cornerstone on offense for the Yankees. And then next year, unfortunately, tore his shoulder, couldn't really recover from that, wound up just putting up decent but not amazing offensive numbers, was never really good defensively, so he didn't have that to fall back on, and just kind of fell out of the Yankees' plans. So a couple of years later, went from one of their best young hitters to off the team. Made some brief appearances with the Pirates last couple of years, didn't stay there either, and now, Oakland A's, I mean, don't have to say it, but this is kind of a last chance thing, right? Well, what's interesting is that Andujar probably would have been doing something from the beginning of the season if he didn't get injured again this year. He had a really hot spring, hit 357, 5 home runs, 15 RBIs. You remember back early when Esteury Ruiz was, everybody's draft darling, and then all of a sudden he got optioned down. He probably wouldn't have even made the opening day roster if not for Andujar getting hurt. All right, Andujar was locked in basically to a starting job until another injury. Now, he's back. Very small sample so far, but 6 for his first 17. He's got a home run. Is he ready to bounce back, recapture that old magic? I'm not going to go that far, but I will say we know talent isn't the issue. He's still, 29, not yet out of his prime years. So look, there's not a lot of hitters I really love this week. There's not that many guys left that have tremendous upside. I know it's not the greatest situation here in Oakland, but I'll take a chance because at least he does have a path to playing time. And then what about a current Yankee who's also trying to bounce back? DJ LeMahieu. Might remember he was the batting champ formerly. Hit 364 just 2020, not too long ago. But honestly, the last couple of years just settled into being a decent, not amazing hitter. He's averaged 258 over the last 3 years. And, the power is okay. He could get you double-digit home runs, but that's about it. And speed really isn't there too much anymore. So why are we talking about LeMahieu? Not just because he's a Yankee. It helps that he qualifies at first, second, and third base, so you get some flexibility there. I think he can hit for a decent average, but what you're hoping for is that he scores runs just being in this offense. Now, he's going to start out probably toward the bottom of the order. I don't know if he'll move his way up. If he does get hot, he could. And so you're looking for potentially some runs and some RBIs. Don't expect LeMahieu to kind of recapture his former glory, especially from his Colorado Rockies days. Those days are over. But still, I think he can be useful. I think it's a little bit more like a stopgap utility type player. So I don't want LeMahieu in my starting lineup the rest of the season. But again, he could have some use. Let's stay golden here. Another oldie. Look, Adam Duvall in Atlanta is going to have to do something, might have to contribute because, of course, Ronald Acuna is gone, so it might fall to Duvall to be the everyday right fielder. Duvall has been with the Braves now a couple of seasons. This has been around since 2014, right? So well past his prime now, but it really wasn't that long ago. He was putting up huge power numbers. In fact, 2021, when he split that season between the Marlins and the Braves, he was one of the best power hitters, and I mean for fantasy too, in the game. So far this season, batting 204, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs. All right, so it hasn't quite gotten there yet, but we know with Duvall, talk about a streaky hitter. I mean, he will go through some massive power surges and then quiet down for a while. But I will just say this, now that we know they're going to depend on him more, I want to try to get ahead of that, try to stash him before he starts going on a binge. I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like this whole Braves offense at some point will have to wake up. They're going to have to pick up the slack without Acuna. And then if you're still looking for help at catcher, just want somebody who can maybe give you a little bit more than what you're getting so far at that position, let's see if Keibert Ruiz can finally deliver. Now, Ruiz, former top prospect for the Dodgers, been with the Nationals last couple years, should have been a guy that you could count on at the very least for batting average this year, and it's been just nothing but misery. Just as of 2 weeks ago, his batting average was down to 141 on the season. And I know he missed a little bit of time on the 10-day IL. That wasn't even because of an injury. It was because of the flu. There really was no reason for this. I mean, talk about a cold start. This is beyond cold. I mean, he was just actively hurting fantasy teams, was dropped everywhere, wasn't doing anything. Which is really odd because his first couple of seasons, he's been a pretty solid source of batting average at the catcher position at least. Why did it drop so much this year? It's hard to really know, but at least he's finally figured something out because he has multi-hit games in 4 of the last 5. At least got that batting average up over 200. His expected batting average is also much higher, 40 points in fact, so maybe we'll start to see it come back a little bit. Hey, maybe he'll even throw in a home run or 2 here. Now, I still don't love this Nats lineup, but they do have some talent, and I'm really hoping that very soon we'll see some of those youngsters get called up. Talking James Wood, Dylan Cruz, and so on. So I do have some hope here, some optimism for both Ruiz and the Nats offense. There's always hope with struggling players. You never know when they're going to turn it around, which is why it's always good to try to buy low when you can. These are the players I'm looking at this week.